Last problem, let's bring it down to the next page. Our last problem was F, and it looks like it was 9x squared, let's see, minus 6x equals negative 7. So again, the problem with this one is that it doesn't equal 0. So the first thing you would want to do is move that negative 7 by adding 7 to both sides of the equation. What that would get you is a 9x squared minus 6x plus 7 now equals 0. And again, you'd go ahead and do your quadratic formula with your 9 as your A, your negative 6 as your B, and your positive 7 here, as your C. And we do that quadratic formula equation, which is negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So our negative B, well, our B is already negative, so just like the last couple, it'll turn into a positive 6. Plus or minus, again, just like the last couple, if we're looking at B squared, let's see, negative 6 squared would actually become a positive 36. So we'd have a positive 36 first, minus 4 times your A, which is 9, times your C, which is 7, all over 2 times your A, which is again 9, your A, which was, we said 9. Again, making sure that we follow our order of operations, we'd start by, we can go ahead and simplify the denominator. The 2 times 9 on the denominator is going to give us 18. We have our positive 6 plus or minus the 36. Now, what happens when we multiply out that other part that's underneath our square root, the 4 times 9 times 7? Well, we get a 252, which is negative this time. We just have that minus sign. We don't have another negative sign to cancel that out with. So now I need to do my math that's inside of my square root. Let's see what happens. So I've got my 6 plus or minus. I've got my 18 on the bottom. And the question is, what happens with this part? With this 36 minus 252. So what is 36 minus 252? Well, I'll get a negative 216. And again, the question, just like all of these beforehand, is can we break down 216 into two things, one of which you can take the square root of? And you can. It's 36 times 6. So let's see what happens here. So we get 6 plus or minus, we've got an 18 on the bottom. Now, we did this because you can take the square root of 36, which will come out of the root as a 6. However, this 6 you cannot take the square root of, so it will stay inside. So we also have one more issue. We have a negative inside of a square root. Remember, those can come out, but they come out as an I. Almost done. Notice, again, we want to look at all of our numbers in each piece except for what's inside of the square root because that's safe. That's a border we cannot cross. And look, all three numbers, the 6, 6, and 18, are all divisible by 6. So let's reduce this by dividing everything through by a 6. Let's see what happens here. We get, let's see, 1 plus or minus. We get a 1 in front of our I when we reduce the 6 into the 6, but we don't have to write it, so we'll just write the I. The 6 that's inside of the square root is safe where it is. It does not get affected by the reducing by a factor of 6. All over, the 6 does divide into the 18. 3 times. And so we end up with our 2 answers here. We end up with the 1 plus I square roots of 6 over 3. And the one with the minus in the middle, 1 minus I square roots of 6 over 3. So notice we still end up with 2 answers. Notice though, however, this time, notice our final answers have i's in them, which means that these 2 answers are both complex. Notice they also both have square roots like most of our other answers, which means they're also what are called irrational. So they're complex and irrational, and we did still get 2 answers.